Welcome back to another Blueprint video. I'm Ghost, and in today's video, I'll be providing you all with tips and tricks to master the Skelly Donut. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Alright, and we are here now. To start things off with, we kind of actually need to understand how to execute the Skelly Donut, when to use bats, when to use Skelly, and of course, where exactly to drop the invisibility spell. So throughout the course of the video, we're going to start here with the very simple, where buildings are essentially on the same tile side by side, just like, for example, the CC and this multi. And then we're going to progress into identify how to execute more advanced Skelly Donuts. So first things off is this right here. So when two buildings are on the same tile, and what I mean by this is when they're both all on the same tile, for example, like the CC and multi. Now, a lot of the bases, you're going to see the CC, and instead of this multi, you're going to be able to see a monolith. So in this case, if it's an Inferno, unfortunately, it has to be 4 tiles in the dead apart from where you drop the invisibility spell. So what I mean by 4 tile is that first, we have to count the tiles. So this right here will be your first tile. So this right here is 1. This right here is your second tile. This right here is your third. And this white space right there is going to be your 4th tile. Now, why do you need to drop it on the 4th tile? And that's because of its radius. And as you can see, this invisibility radius there, it does not cover the invisibility. It does not cover the Inferno, and it also does not cover that CC. So that's why you kind of have to drop it on the 4th tile so that you don't make the Inferno invisible. Now, had this actually been a monolith, you can actually drop it on the 3rd tile, and we'll be able to talk more about that later on in the video. But again, you kind of have to drop it 4 tiles apart, especially if they're all on the same tile. For instance, like this building right there, you have to drop it 4 tiles. So this is, again, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this right here is exactly where I'm dropping the invisibility spell to be able to get this multi and the CC. Now, this one, I'm always going to go with the Skelly spell for the Inferno. No, Skelly spell for the Clan Castle. And then sometimes it depends, it varies if you want to use Bat or if you want to use Skelly. This right here, it's going to work either or, especially if you do not want to activate the Town Hall. In this case, you could use a Bat, but like in this replay, I'm going to use this Skelly spell. So here we are dropping Invis, the Rage, and I'm going to be able to put this in half speed so that you can see exactly this right there is exactly where I'm dropping that invisibility spell to actually not make either one of those buildings invisible. So again, you kind of have to count like I do. I count the 4 seconds essentially. That way you can drop the invisibility spell and time that perfectly to be able to get those 2 buildings down. So as you see there, I was able to take down both the CC and that multi no problem, because now with this attack, this is just the clean classic approach to where you're going to be able to just follow up with the hogs and clean the rest of the base out with that. Alright, next up is going to be a little bit stepped up notch in terms of Skelly Donut and how to execute it. Instead of focusing on the side-by-side building like we did in the previous replay, we're going to focus on how to do this diagonal building. So just like we're going to try to get both of these scattered, and of course we're going to add the multi-inferno because that is actually in range as well. So in terms of diagonal wise, when it's diagonal from each other, it is 4 tiles max. So exactly, this is exactly 4 tiles max. So here it's going to be first tile, and then this right here will be the second tile. This right here will be the third, that right there, and then this right here will be the 4th. So how did I count those tiles? Is essentially from the very tip of the scatter to the other tip of the other scatter. Now to pinpoint this, we kind of have to drop the invisibility spell right in the middle. So essentially right here, because this is also 3 tile diagonal from the multi. So in order to get this, it can essentially be 2.5 tile diagonal for scatter shots, but multis has to be 3 tile diagonal wise to be able to get that multi Inferno. So again, you kind of have to count your tiles, and again, it's 4 tiles diagonal max. So you can actually hit it in 2.5, just essentially just like this. So this is essentially 1, 2, and this is in the half right between both of those. So this is the middle of both of those, so that way you're able to drop this right there to actually get both of those scattered. But evidently dropping it there actually made it to where you're actually able to get the multi. Just the perfect design of this layout was actually set up very nicely for the Skelly Donut. So let's just dive into the donut so that you're able to see it. And for me, I like to kind of drop the rage first, and then my focus on the invis, and then drop the Skelly spell. So you're going to be able to see how I drop all 3 Skelly spells at the same time to be able to get the donut. And again, focus on that tile where I'm dropping it. I'm dropping it right on top of there, exactly 2.5 in between the scatter, but 3 tiles diagonal from that multi Inferno. So again, it's really critical that you understand how to do the cow towning. And again, practice makes perfection. So being able to do this is going to be really key and to benefit you and to make you harder to predict defensive wise. So let's move and see what happens if we actually did 3 bats instead of the 3 Skelly spells, and talk about why I chose the Skelly over the bats. Alright, and we are going to do the bat spell instead of Skelly spell. Again, let's highlight our targets. These are going to be the 3 buildings we're going to be looking at. So when to understand when to use bat spell and Skelly spell. Obviously, Skelly spell works on all 3, and I personally prefer the Skelly spell over the bat spell just because bats can be a little finicky, and we're going to be able to see why here, exactly why. So especially, first thing to point off is the sweeper. So now if you're dropping an invisibility spell like right here, you're going to have the issue of the sweeper pushing your bats and then pushing them away in a range to where they're going to be able to be targeted by the air expo or potentially the RC. So given that the RC range, if you were to drop the bat spell in the middle and they were to go and they just spread out so wide that it could step inside of the RC and the RC shoots the bat. So that's again why I do not like the bats as much unless it's for a simple building like this Inferno, because this Inferno is easily to take down with the bat spell, whereas when you go in a diagonal with the Skelly Donut, especially in this case, it's a little bit harder with the bats. It's doable, but it may invest more and it's also not consistent. So let's just take a look at the replay and see exactly why the bats are a little bit finicky and why I decide to go with the Skelly spell over the bat. So again, dropping those bat spell exactly how I dropped that Skelly spell in the first replay. So looking at this, you could already see how some of those bats are stepping out of range and being picked off by the air expo. And of course that RC is being aggroed and not shooting, but she's aware of the range of the bats. So here you go, you can see the sweeper pushing the bats away, and of course the Inferno was easy to take, but as you look on both of those scatter shots, both of those were hard to take down with the bat spell just because of how those bats would step out of range of that invis, where those expo were just picking them apart. So again, if you had like another invis, you could get this down, but again, why I chose the Skelly spell and not the bat spells to do Skelly Donuts in case like this. Alright, and last thing I wanted to touch apart on is the Inferno tower. So we've already talked about 4 tile diagonal for those scatter shot, but same case here, it's going to be the same exact thing for the Infernos as well. So diagonal wise, this right here is going to be the very first tip that's apart from this multi, and then this right there will be the second one. And then moving along, this right there will be the third. And then this tile right here is going to be the fourth. So this is the third. This wall piece right there is the fourth. That wall piece is the second tile apart. Now, they're 4 tile diagonal apart. Now, how do you know where to drop the invis? So what I did here is I kind of took the corner pieces of both the Inferno tower. So we're going to focus on 1 and number 4. So what I did to establish where to drop the invis was I counted 4 tiles from there. So this is essentially going to be 1, 2, 3, and then 4 right there. So that's where I dropped the invis, because this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 tiles apart, and that's exactly where I'm going to drop the invis, essentially right over that 3.5 area, so that it actually gets the Inferno. So right there is exactly how I established this, is I took the corner pieces of both of those Infernos. If you happen to run into Inferno towers where they're 4 tile diagonal apart, then you could use the same method and be able to establish that. So 3.5 essentially to 4 is where I'll drop the invisibility spell. But again, practice makes perfect, and if you were to actually test this out yourself, you would be able to actually narrow down this Skelly Donut as well. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this so you can clearly see the invisibility spell drop and how the Skelly Donut was managed to be able to take both of those Infernos down. So again, this specific tile was where I was primarily aiming at, anywhere right there in this vicinity will actually get both of these Infernos down like it is showing right there. And again, I'm using Skelly spell. Bat spells would have worked as well in this case, especially on Infernos. They tend to do better and have a better radius staying inside of the invisibility spell, unlike those bat spells. So let's now take a look at a full attack implementing a Skelly Donut with everything we've learned. Okay, before we get into our full attack utilizing the Skelly Donut, I want to kind of make this a visually understandable for you guys to be able to understand what I mean by diagonal. So the yellow wall pieces are essentially the diagonal tile, and what I mean by that, that's 4 tiles apart. As you can see, 4 and 4. And as where I drop the invis spell on both of those replays are going to be these blue wall pieces, because that's again 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and of course 2.5 diagonal between the scatters and 3 tile diagonal for that multi-inferno. And of course, when buildings are side by side, you're always going to want to do it 4 tiles, especially for this one. 3.5 can work, so roughly in front of this wall piece is going to work as well. But practicing makes the perfection occur, especially when it comes to Skelly Donut. Always try to take advantage of FCing yourself before you actually do it in the war, so you can actually understand the tile counting. So now let's dive into the full attack. Alright, so now combining everything we've learned between diagonal and side by side, here is going to be a full extended replay for a Skelly Donut that's actually targeting not the CC. So this is going to be a quad Skelly Donut targeting a Monolith, Eagle, Expo, and Scattershot. This right here essentially creates a big, huge pathing to where I'm able to set up a very narrow pathing to be able to Sui into the queen side. As you're going to be able to see here, I'm going to want to Sui my queen into there, my heroes there, and fill in the hogs through the rest of the base like that. So starting off with the early Yeti blimp after that Skelly Donut. Again, if you want to practice and understand those Skelly Donuts, those tips I provided with you will actually guide you towards that direction. And again, like I've already mentioned, keep practicing so you actually fully understand those tile count and to be able to execute these Skelly Donuts. Now moving along, after the Yeti blimp, you can already see there is going to be a split between the base of in terms of defense wise. If my heroes were to get all this right here on this side, I can essentially have the hogs come from the top and sweep through the bottom through the rest of the base just like that. So that's going to be the good easy part, especially if you don't have to take the CC down. You have to plan accordingly for that CC. And of course, not many people are going to be expecting a non-CC donut, because a lot of typical players tend to donut the CC and get another defense that's pretty crucial for their attacks, such as Inferno or Scatter. Now moving along, Queen actually bailed, so King unfortunately is going to have to work on this multi-Inferno by himself to clear this compartment, which is going to leave these buildings defenses up and around, so that they're going to have to make my hogs backtrack. So without waiting, trying to keep the queen alive, because keeping the queen alive is really crucial here, is because it's going to support not only in cleanup, but it's going to actually benefit this whole entire hog push, and getting that warding ability to actually keep those troops alive, keep the headhunter inside of the tome to take down the RC. I'm now going to be able to freeze the multi and now supplement hogs to come in for the rest of the back end just like that. And as you can see, the queen is still alive, and that's why you want to try to keep the queen alive as long as possible, especially because she did not go the correct way to get the expo. This expo is going to be what take her down. So now with the hogs, with the Skelly Donut, I still have the RC ability, Invis, and that it's going to be GG's right there. So again, understanding those Skelly Donut tips and tricks can actually benefit you in wars, in case you can actually utilize not only Skelly Donut the CC, but you can actually Skelly Donut multiple buildings. In this case, like I did in the previous replay, highlighting Scattershot, Infernos, and of course now especially the quad donut there. So now a really good attack there, highlighting the Skelly Donut and taking advantage of taking those damage down. Alright, and that will be it for today's video. I hope you guys were able to learn how to master the Skelly Donut. And if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them down below in the comments for me, and I will go check that out for you guys. Also, if you like this video, make sure you guys give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos just like this. But for now, that'll be it from me. Until next time, Ghost out.